theoretically, and it's kind of like a double tiered question here. If I'm replacing my roof, A, is that a good time for a solar panel installation? And B, what would my roofer need to know to make sure it all works together properly?
Okay, so A, yes, probably the best time. Now, if let's say that something happened in the future, you already have solar. Solar is covered under your dwelling policy. It's actually part of your roof. So we do what's called an R&R in the industry, where we do the removal and then the re-rack. We actually work with a lot of roofers who don't have a relationship with a solar company. So that's covered by the insurance, and then the roofing company will pay us on our portion. If they need help, we do have a roofing company ourselves, and we can do the entire work. But to answer the question, if the roof's already been replaced, that's going to be the best time to get solar, because you don't have to worry about the R&R coming so soon.
One more follow-up to that.
Okay.
Would solar panel installation impact the type of shingles or roofing material that they use?
No. No, not at all. No, solar is covered under the dwelling policy for a reason. Most insurance companies are actually giving discounts for solar now, because it actually protects the roof. It is way stronger than a roof. So if there were a case where something is large enough to break a solar panel, which, you know, I have a video on my YouTube channel that will show you what all they'll put up with, and they will put up with a lot. There might or might not be a truck driving over them, and there might or might not be 250 mile an hour hail balls, is basically what they use to show the test on it. So that's going to be the, you know, it's, I forgot the question.
You answered it perfectly, thank you.
Yeah, so, all right, cool. All right, you, sir.
So I have
Random
two
person.
questions.
Okay.
So, how are solar panels manufactured to withstand so much?
Well, what's very important with solar is that you get the right type of panel, because there are two different types of panels. The first one being probably the older and the cheaper model, which is called polycrystalline. Poly means many, so many pieces to make that polycrystalline panel. So if you could think of a, let's say like a piece of particle board, where there's a bunch of little pieces of wood glued together, that's polycrystalline. So right out of the box, they'll work very similar to other solar panels, but over time, as just the natural weather happens, several hailstorms go against it, it might develop little microfractures, where the ones we use exclusively are called monocrystalline. So when you hear mono, it is one piece. So it's just one piece of silicon, and it's like comparing a sheet of oak wood to a sheet of particle board, where the strength is just night and day. So that's a very good question. And what's the second question?
My second question is, what are some ways solar panels are different from using shingles?
But the solar shingles?
Yes.
Okay. Solar shingles are one of the coolest ideas I've ever heard, but unfortunately we can think of a lot of cool things, but how they perform in the real world is a little bit different. Solar shingles aren't, I don't believe that there's one active solar shingle project in the state of Texas. There are only a few that have actually been installed. Tesla has a really long waiting list, but it's just technology that someone had a really great idea, but it just hasn't been perfected yet. So I would love to see them, but the main difference would be efficiency. Even if they cost the same, the efficiency is about a fifth of what a real solar panel is. And then the other thing is cost. They do cost more than the homes that you're putting them on. And most people are going solar because they don't want to rent their electricity, they want to own, they want to save money. So they are better looking, I can't argue that, but you can get a Ferrari and your own solar, or you can just get solar shingles. So that would be, I would choose the Ferrari and the regular solar panel system over just the solar shingles. That's just me. If you already have a Ferrari, then good for you.
So,
All right.
how are they technologically different?
Well, technologically, they're just a bigger cell, and you know, when you shrink things, you know, if we wanted to make a cell phone as big as a postage stamp, it's going to change the technology of it. So that's going to, it's just harder to make things smaller and make them as efficient. So, thank you, good question.
One more question focused kind of on roofing is the 30% federal tax credit is for solar. Does that cover just the panels? Like if I get a new roof to go solar, does that 30% federal tax credit cover any of the cost of that, or do they get added together?
Well, the 30% is on the solar project itself, so obviously you need a roof to put on solar. So if you need a roof, or if you need a ground mount, or if you need an electrical panel changed out, anything that's gonna have to do with that project, then that can be rolled into the entire project. So that would be the perfect time to take advantage of that. So that's a very good question. If you are gonna do something already, you might as well roll it to a solar project.
I had a question regarding, I know we don't get a lot of it in Texas, but the ice, when our temperatures drop and it's raining, how does that affect? Or is there a warming process so that ice isn't over the solar panels? How does that work?
I've never ran into that in Texas. Now, I do know some people up north that deal with that. And in extreme situations, there are basically, it's like a tube that would go over the top of the panels, and it would just melt that first layer where they go down. So you're talking sub-zero temperatures, and if there's no market for that in Texas,
Okay.
but there are markets for that other places, so that is a good question.
And so when we meet with a client, I had one who asked, do we provide low profile, high output, because he didn't want this monstrosity of a panel. Do they get to pick the size of their panels or what the look is, or?
To an extent, he's probably talking about something way in the past. Panels used to be a lot bigger, they used to be a lot thicker. They're all low profile now. So you've got about a little over an inch gap underneath, which allows for airflow.
Okay.
And actually, I call it reverse insulation. It's just my own made up term. Don't look it up, it's not Googleable yet. But what that'll do is it'll keep the heat from going under. So their panels are like light bulbs, where basically they're all gonna look the same, but you do have higher efficiency on certain panels where your size is smaller.
Okay.
So that's all gonna be just kind of a cost analysis based on your own personal house, where we might use a higher wattage on one, we might use a lower wattage on another because it's cheaper. So that's a really good question. Okay, did you guys have?
Yeah, I was speaking to someone about going solar. They were planning on selling their house in like 5 years, and they didn't know whether to lease the system or own the system, which is better if a person's going to sell their house.
Well, I don't understand the leasing system at all. That's just me. Leasing is usually for people that can't afford or can't get qualified for, let's say, can't get qualified for solar. So in a system where you're leasing, you're essentially renting. We can do that if someone really wants to. They're renting electricity at a little bit lower price than they would have paid just paying their regular electric company. But that company's gonna keep the credits and that they would have gotten back from the government as part of their way to reimburse themselves for doing it. So 5 years is plenty. I mean, you saw the chart where if there's no government incentives in 5 years, if you just paid your electric bill, you gain 30%. So if someone is looking at a Green Star home, they're automatically looking for solar. So if you had a pool and you could go to a realtor and say, put me in the pool star category where every single person only looked at your house that was looking for a pool, it would up your numbers tremendously. So that's somebody who just needs to see some of the numbers, because let's say we made up the 15% and there's no value for it at all, they're still being shopped that much and they're getting all the incentives on the front end. So if you can just break even with your solar system, if that was the worst case scenario, you would still come out in a major way if you got $10,000, $12,000 in tax credits. So